It is so obvious that the great good and the terrible evil in the world today are the sweet and the bitter fruits of the rearing of yesterday's children. If you are worried about the future, then look to the upbringing of the children.
The kids are happy here. Everybody is happy. You can tell by their smiles.
I was born here in Nairobi.
This is called Ksl Slums, second largest slum in Kenya.
To get them out of that environment takes education, gives them a chance.
These kids are so eager to learn and so eager to create opportunities for themselves.
I would like to be a doctor.
She's gonna go places.
I want to have a child like this one to know that life is beyond the slums.
Education is everything.
One way in which you can be able to kick out poverty is through education. There's nothing else.
Changing the future for the kids of Kenya, one mind at a time. In Nairobi, Kenya, you'll find a bustling city at the edge of a vast savanna. Towering skyscrapers can be seen from the plains where giraffe, zebra, and buffalo roam free. But what can't be seen from afar are the rows and rows of metal and cinder block homes that fill the city's slums. There, hundreds of thousands of families live in extreme poverty. Life for the poorest of the poor in Kenya cannot compare to even the neediest neighborhoods in America. To outsiders, it may seem impossible to escape, but to some on the inside, there is a path out of poverty. It begins with children, and it centers on education.
How important is education to the prosperity of Africa?
I think education is not just important to the prosperity of Africa. Education is important to the prosperity or the progress of any human being. Today, the world is so interconnected. There is such a huge flow of information. And unless you are able to read, unless you are able to write, you are out of this flow. And if you are out of this flow, you are essentially stuck where you are.
Decades after a good education helped Elder Joseph Sitati, member of the Quorum of the 70, escape the extreme poverty of rural Kenya, the country now provides free primary schooling for children, but it's not required.
That is why you find that some children who come from homes that are dysfunctional and run away from home, essentially live on the streets and do not benefit from this opportunity. And so they'll continue to be stuck unless someone helps them from that street.
These are the streets of Nairobi, where you see everything from camels to cattle, boda motorcycles to matatu buses. Small shops line the roads, where many make a meager living selling second-hand goods. Of the 3 million people who live here, half are estimated to live in the city's slums.
This is called Ksl Slums, second largest slum in Kenya.
Home to thousands, Soweto lacks the basic services we take for granted every day in America. There's no running water, no sanitation, and no sewer.
Maybe you can walk if you dare.
It's a sight Stephen Chalo wants the world to see.
How will somebody in America understand that there's no dumping place? How will somebody in America understand that this is a place that you can be able to go to use it as a toilet? How can that be able to be? How will you put that one in your mind? Nobody can be able to understand it until they are here on the ground.
These are a yes.
Utah mom Amy Broadbent struggled to process the poverty she saw on her first trip to Kenya.
You see images of Africa and you see the National Geographic lions and you're excited to see that kind of thing. And then you see also the commercials of the Christian organizations that are wanting money for these poor children. And so that's the visual you get, but until you're there and you have the emotional response, the garbage and the children running in bare feet, you get in there and you can smell, just all your senses are just bombarded and it just is overwhelming. I remember just trying to take in all these things and at the same time just trying to close my eyes because I didn't want to see it. I don't know how humanity allows it to happen.
I'd seen a lot of pretty impoverished things while we were there, but this was right down to the lowest of the low.
The first time senior missionary Dick Tuttle stepped foot in Nairobi slums, he was struck by one thing.
Coming from a wonderful place like we live in is probably the filth.
Sometimes it might be a little bit of ignorance. For me, since I've been exposed to cleanliness, it really bothers me.
For most families, the idea of a different life is just a dream.
Most of the people here live below $1. That's their income per day.
And it's that struggle that started Stephen's journey in Soweto as a returned missionary.
When we are walking here, we could be able to see a lot of kids around here suffering.
Hungry children begged Stephen and his wife for money to buy food.
I thought of, if I give this child a shilling, how am I going to be able to help them? I better take them to our small one room. I can be able to try to feed them. So that's what I did. We came and we rented a place here in Soweto. We are just feeding them and also educating them, teaching them. So the number increased and increased, and right now we have 135, the ones that are in this school, in addition to the ones that live here.
Here is the United in the Hope of Africa Center, a school in the heart of the slum.
The main language groups in Kenya, there are how many?
Here, the days start early, at 5:30 a.m.
This is a long day. They are very busy. Everybody is studying. No jokes here. No jokes.
Dozens of kids in grades 1 through 8 spend their days in small classrooms with minimal supplies.
Millipede, goods.
A team of 10 teachers teaches everything from the basics of language to social studies
Waswahili call person mtu. Is it true?
Yes. And science.
Animals with backbones.
Boys, wake up, wake up.
But for 35 of these students, this school is more than just classrooms. It's their home.
They are supposed to stay until they are 18 years.
Abused, neglected, or orphaned, Stephen has been able to take in several dozen children as his own over the last 15 years. They live in close quarters, sometimes doubling up on bunks, but their basic needs are met.
Brush your teeth and we rush to our classes.
As much as he'd like to care for all of the children who pass through his school, it's simply not possible. Providing too much to too many could have everyone living in the same poor situations they came from.
I don't want to have 100 kids starving here.
A reality still faced by some of the students who live at home. Students like Dennis.
This is where Dennis stays with his mother and with his sister. This is the kitchen, and this is our sitting room, and this is the bedroom. So Dennis, do you want to tell us what time you usually wake up in the morning?
I usually wake up 5 when I go to school.
So what do you usually have for breakfast?
Yeah, bread. Sometimes I go without.
Without, eh? So how many times do you usually go without food? Without breakfast in the morning?
So many.
Per week, about how many times?
Like 2, 3.
Getting 2 meals here, sometimes is a miracle. It's a miracle.
As well as Stephen knows the streets of Soweto, growing up in a rural village and raised by his aunt and uncle, he also knows how it feels to be hungry.
We are denied food, and we were given a lot of hard work to do.
Education was an escape, and it eventually brought him to Nairobi. Now he's doing his part to prepare these kids for what he hopes will be a brighter future.
Education is very, very important to these kids because, if a child is not educated, they don't know anything beyond the life that they live right now.
His goal is to set their sights outside of the slum.
I want to have a child like this one to see her succeed in life. Life is beyond the slums. She can be able to be what she wants to be when she grows up. They can be able to be anything in this world. They can be the president of this country.
I am a president.
Because of education.
The fruits of education. For the kids of Kenya, knowledge is key.
The biggest impact was my time here.
Coming up, the need for knowledge from around the world, and how what once was a Latter-day Saint chapel became the second story of Stephen's school.
Hello, hello. Welcome, dear visitors. We are happy to see you today.
Welcoming to visitors, the kids at United in the Hope of Africa know they're part of something special.
Oh yeah, these kids are happy. They're always happy.
And they know they're blessed to be where they are.
Everything I get, like education, food, shelter, it's good.
5 years ago, this became Grace's home. Since then, she's learned valuable lessons.
In everything we pass, experience, we never give up. So even when we suffer, there will be another opportunity to go on with life.
Words of wisdom from a child who not long ago saw her story ending in the same slum where she was born. Now she has big dreams beyond Soweto.
I would like to be a doctor.
These kids are so eager to learn and so eager to create opportunities for themselves.
This spring, Utah State student David Mann traveled to Nairobi to spend a few days teaching the students. His lessons went beyond the basics.
What stuck out to you? We talked about being proactive, having a vision for yourself, and prioritizing. We are all winners, that's right. We had them say kind of this mantra, you are valued, you are needed, you are loved. And we have them repeat that, I am valued, I am needed, I am loved. And the energy you feel in that room is unlike anything I've ever felt. How are you? I hope that they realize, a lot of them have said that after the training, they believe that anything is possible. And so I hope that that is just reaffirmed and refortified throughout their lives. When I leave and go home, will you remember me? Will you remember the things I taught you? Yes? Sawa sawa? Yes.
But I would like many people to come here. I would like a lot of people, even if it means every month. Yeah, it can be nice, you know.
Stephen hopes to expose his students to the outside world as much as possible. Volunteers come a handful of times each year.
It's a lot of things that we can do with them. These lockers, this is a cabinet. These ones were built by one of our good friends. He's known as Dick Turtle. He lives in Farmington. He was an LDS Charities. He came and he built these ones. He came and volunteered for, I think it was about 1 month. Me, I'm not good in this.
Don't let his modesty fool you. The room he's sitting in, the entire school, was built by Stephen.
Oh, yeah, by aunt. It was not easy.
A member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Stephen seized an opportunity to serve his church while improving the school.
One of the buildings of the church, they wanted to demolish. So what I did was I went and requested the bishop who was in charge. Is it okay for me, I'll be able to demolish for free? And they can be able to take all the lumber and I'll be able to use it. So I went and demolished them. We put everything together, we carried them here, we offloaded, and we started building.
The school standing today, 2 stories of corrugated metal, plywood, and lumber, despite its simplicity, holes, and potential hazards, is something Stephen and his students are very proud of.
I can see that we have a beautiful place here.
When we come back, how a Utah missionary stumbled upon Stephen's school.
I said, Stephen, the wrong person just found out about this orphanage.
And how a group of Utahns is making sure Stephen can keep his classrooms open, his kitchen cooking, and his children fed.
This is not how it was before, this building. This is in a very nice shape. When we moved here 5 years ago, they were just iron sheets.
To outsiders, United in the Hope of Africa looked less hopeful in the past.
The orphanage was 2 rooms. There were 64 kids, and they were sleeping 6 to 7 in horizontal on twin beds. They were eating once a day. Just bad situation, but in his mind, kids were off the street.
Amy Broadbent met Stephen 7 years ago during a visit to see her in-laws, who were serving as mission presidents for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Nairobi.
I remember driving through the slum, and I was just sucked in. That was the first time I saw anything that I couldn't even imagine.
As a senior missionary, Dick Tuttle was the first outsider to see the school.
Stephen mentioned that he had an orphanage to my wife. And nobody believed him because he didn't even let on that he had had that for 11 years.
Until then, Stephen had been supporting the children with his small wood carving business, a burden he said he was called to bear.
He had a dream, he told me, that he was to educate 1,000 children before he died. And I said,
Wow.
Stephen, you can't do this. How can you do this alone? He said, well, I sell my carvings. I said, Stephen, the wrong person just found out about this orphanage. I don't know why, but I guess this is where I belong.
Elder and Sister Tuttle helped however they could during the remainder of their mission.
It improved along the way in our 18 months there. And then we came home. And my wife and I said, we can't just leave this. And I said, Janet, he knows that I know. And I can't walk away from it. How do you do that?
You couldn't not do something.
I can't. It'll haunt me the rest of my life.
I realized that Stephen had this huge network of people that loved him and wanted to help. Take all the pencils out of there.
Dick and Amy, together with other missionary couples, have taken their love for Stephen and his students
There's all these towels.
and turned it into a nonprofit.
We just do the best we can with what we have and what we know.
With the help of fundraisers like this 5K race in Syracuse, the Shamba Foundation supports Stephen,
These are great for the kids.
the students, and the school.
Initially, we didn't have 3 meals. Now we have been able to have 3 meals per day. We didn't have beddings. They have been able to buy bedding for us.
There's a whole bag of stuff.
Donation drives and service projects in Utah help collect clothing and school supplies.
We have 4 pallets in Mombasa with the neatest looking curriculum we've ever seen from 2 elementaries that donated.
Items that to us may seem small, but to kids of Kenya, they can mean the world.
These kids are like sponges. The more we could give to those kids in something they could learn, the better they felt, the taller they walked, the smile was bigger on their face. So to get them out of that environment takes education. It gives them a chance.
Up next, success and self-worth. The lifelong lessons these kids are being taught that they can't learn from any book. Africa is filled with beauty, majestic wild animals, and intriguing tribal cultures. These are the images most tourists come here to capture. But Amy Broadbent knows there's more to see.
There was something about the Maasai who were poor, but there was a unity and there was an organization to them, and it seemed okay. And then I drive through the slum, and it's not okay.
Our goal is to get those kids out of Soweto slum, get them in a different environment. They've never seen a flushing toilet. They had never seen a high-rise. They had never seen a department store. We've given them a chance to see, to taste what education brings, how to associate with other people, how to socialize outside of this slum environment.
I wake up in the morning.
The Shamba Foundation and United in the Hope of Africa are on the verge of a big change.
We're this close to getting a little piece of property with a little house on it that can be added to for classrooms.
Thank you, teacher.
But support from Shamba goes beyond building and books.
Grace, come here.
Remember Grace? A leader in the school now, her life was completely changed with the help of the foundation.
I didn't have that opportunity to go to hospital.
At only 5 years old, Grace was raped. And for 7 years, she lived with unimaginable injuries in silence. The foundation was able to finally get Grace the surgery she needed. And today, Grace is turning her story of trauma into triumph.
She just epitomizes everything that we're trying so hard to do. You take this little girl who is from the most horrific situation, and we've been able to develop her and strengthen her, and she's learning and she's growing and she's being an example to the kids there in the home, and she's gonna go places. I just know it.
And she's not alone.
There are some awesome kids. We've got Wilson that's in school right now that he wants to be a doctor, and he's on track. We have Mercy that just graduated from high school, and Mercy is in salon school. And so they're learning things, and while they're there, Stephen is teaching them beadwork, and he's teaching some of the kids how to drive, and he's teaching them some of these things that they can have so that they can be productive and be that contributing person to their society.
To be born poor is not your wish, but to die poor is your wish.
For Stephen Chalo, faith fuels his passion.
When I went to mission, I learned the principles of love, charitable, kind, and all these things, all these Christ-like attributes. And since I've been able to learn those, I want to practice them here. I am today what I am. I am kind to this girl because of the church. I am kind to the community here because of the church.
He has hope and faith that with help from his friends and education, these faces will change the future of Kenya, and their knowledge will change the world.
E.T. Sullivan once wrote these interesting words, quote, "When God wants a great work done in the world or a great wrong righted, he goes about it in a very unusual way. He doesn't stir up his earthquakes or send forth his thunderbolts. Instead, he has a helpless baby born, perhaps in a simple home of some obscure mother. And then he puts the idea into the mother's heart, and she puts it into the baby's mind, and then God waits. The greatest forces in the world are not the earthquakes and the thunderbolts. The greatest forces in the world are babies."
To watch this program and many other inspiring KSL documentaries, download the free KSL TV app now from your preferred app store for all your favorite devices. Enjoy uplifting programming anytime, anywhere you want.